Have you ever paused to wonder why, despite centuries of social and intellectual progress, certain fundamental truths about men and women seem to be systematically ignored or even condemned? Why is there such resistance to acknowledging the evident differences between the sexes, when these differences are deeply rooted in nature, history, and human behavior? Today, we are often told that men and women are the same, equal in all ways, not just in rights but in desires, intellects, and capacities. Yet, when we look closely at the patterns of human interaction, nature, and evolutionary psychology, the notion of a perfect equality between the sexes begins to fray at the edges. And if we dare to ask why this is, the answers we encounter can be uncomfortable, even threatening. It is precisely this discomfort that philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer embraced in his reflections on the nature of men and women. Schopenhauer, one of the more polarizing figures in philosophy, did not shy away from the raw, unvarnished truth as he saw it. His views, especially on women, are some of the most controversial and deeply criticized in the history of Western thought. Yet, they are also among the most compelling for anyone willing to engage with them seriously, not as outdated relics but as stark confrontations with uncomfortable realities that we are still unwilling to face today. Schopenhauer did not seek to be polite or politically correct in his observations about the sexes. Instead, he endeavored to lay bare the biological and psychological truths that, according to him, govern human behavior. For Schopenhauer, the relationship between men and women was not merely a social construct. It was a battle of instincts, one driven by forces far deeper than culture, education, or even social norms. He argued that men and women, far from being identical in their capacities and desires, were fundamentally different. Men were creatures of reason, intellect, and ambition. Women, by contrast, were ruled by instinct, emotion, and biological imperatives. Their power, he believed, lay not in strength or intellect, but in beauty, emotional influence, and subtle manipulation. This idea, that women's power lies in their ability to influence and manipulate rather than to directly conquer or create, is what remains so controversial in Schopenhauer's philosophy. Today, it challenges the prevailing narrative of gender equality that insists on the total sameness of men and women. But what if Schopenhauer was right? What if the real differences between the sexes are biological rather than socially constructed? What if the very idea of romantic love, as we have come to understand it, is nothing more than a biological trick, a fleeting illusion designed to serve nature's ultimate goal, reproduction and survival? Schopenhauer's critique of love is where we begin to unravel some of the most uncomfortable truths about human relationships. He saw love not as a deep, transcendent bond, but as a biological ruse, a deception designed to ensure the continuation of the species. For Schopenhauer, the seemingly eternal connection that lovers claim to share is no more than an illusion. What we call love is merely the expression of a biological imperative, pushing us toward reproduction, security, and survival. Men, driven by their instincts, are attracted to youth and beauty, not because of romance but because these traits signal fertility. Women, in turn, are drawn to strength, power, and status not because of love, but because they signal security and protection. Schopenhauer's view strips love of its lofty ideals. The poets and romantics, he argued, had it all wrong. Love is not about connection or personal fulfillment. It is about biology, survival, and reproduction. Once nature has achieved its aim, once love has led to procreation, the intensity of attraction fades, and the illusion crumbles. What we are left with is not a deeper connection but a biological trick that has served its purpose. Schopenhauer's radical honesty in confronting this idea is, for many, both disturbing and liberating. It asks us to question the very foundation of romantic ideals. If love is not selfless, not pure, not eternal, what does that mean for the way we live, love, and interact with one another today? Schopenhauer's views on women are perhaps the most contentious aspect of his philosophy. He argued that men and women were fundamentally different, not in a superficial or cultural sense, but in the very structure of their minds and instincts. Men, he believed, are driven by ambition, intellect, and a thirst for greatness. They are creatures of logic and reason, constantly striving to leave a mark on the world. Women, by contrast, are guided by instinct, emotion, and the practical concerns of survival. Their power, Schopenhauer argued, lies not in competition or achievement, but in manipulation, charm, and emotional influence. This difference, according to Schopenhauer, is not a product of culture or education, but of nature itself. Men, driven by a desire for conquest and creation, are constantly striving to change the world. They seek to build, to achieve, to invent. Women, on the other hand, are more concerned with stability, security, and survival. Their focus is on the present moment, on the immediate needs of themselves and their families, rather than on abstract, long-term goals. Schopenhauer believed that this difference in focus was not a flaw in either sex, but a necessary and natural distinction. Men seek greatness at the expense of peace, while women seek security at the expense of ambition. One of Schopenhauer's most provocative ideas is that women do not pursue power in the same way men do. While men conquer through strength, intellect, and force, women exert influence through more subtle, indirect means. Women, Schopenhauer argued, shape the world not by building empires, but by shaping the men who build them. They do not compete in open battle, but rather wield power through charm, persuasion, and emotional manipulation. In Schopenhauer's view, beauty is one of the most potent forms of power available to women. Beauty, combined with emotional intuition, allows women to influence the course of relationships, social dynamics, and even political affairs. Schopenhauer saw beauty not just as an aesthetic quality, but as a tool, a fleeting yet powerful weapon that grants women the ability to influence the decisions of men. This power is often invisible, he argued, yet it shapes the course of history in profound ways. Throughout history, women have often shaped leaders and guided the course of empires, not through force, but through their ability to sway those in power. This view of women's power as subtle and indirect is unsettling to many, especially in an age that values direct action and visible achievement. Yet Schopenhauer's argument challenges us to reconsider the nature of power itself. Power is not always about who holds the throne, he suggested, but about who controls the one sitting on it. The biological divide, time, legacy, and survival. Another fundamental difference between men and women that Schopenhauer highlighted is their relationship to time. Men, he argued, are obsessed with the future. They are driven by long-term goals, by legacy, ambition, and the desire to leave a mark on the world. Women, on the other hand, are more attuned to the present. They prioritize immediate security, comfort, and survival over distant goals or abstract ambitions. This difference in temporal focus influences everything from relationships to societal structures. Men, driven by ambition, sacrifice the present for a distant future. Women, on the other hand, seek stability in the present, focusing on securing a comfortable, harmonious environment. In Schopenhauer's view, this difference is not a flaw but a reflection of nature's design. Men are built for creation and conquest, while women are built for survival and stability. Schopenhauer's views on men and women may seem outdated, even offensive to modern sensibilities. However, his critique raises a question that remains unresolved today. Are the differences between men and women the product of culture and socialization, or are they deeply rooted in biology and instinct? And if they are biological, what are the consequences of ignoring them? In modern society, we are often told that men and women should be the same, that gender differences are purely the result of social conditioning. Yet Schopenhauer's ideas force us to confront the possibility that nature may have designed men and women to be fundamentally different, not just in their physical attributes but in their psychological and emotional makeup as well. His philosophy calls into question the very foundation of modern gender politics, suggesting that attempts to erase these differences might lead to confusion, frustration, and societal instability. Perhaps, as Schopenhauer suggests, the real path forward is not one of forced equality, but of acceptance, a recognition that men and women are driven by different instincts, different priorities, and different forms of power. Instead of seeking an artificial sameness, maybe the key to harmony lies in understanding and accepting the natural differences that define our sexes. This may be the most uncomfortable truth of all, but it is one that, if we dare to confront it, could lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationships with each other. Thank you for accompanying. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. so we can discuss wish you and your family good health.